So it has been a little under 3 months since we arrived here in Hanoi, Vietnam. And I'm not gonna lie, out of all the places I have been to, and I've been to a lot of places, especially in the past couple of years, this might be the place that has provided me with the most culture shock. And by the end of this video, you will see exactly why that is the case. Now, when we first arrived here, just for context, we came from Thailand. So it's not like we were new to Southeast Asia per se, but I think I mistakenly assumed that Vietnam would be very similar in the same way that maybe Belgium is very similar to the Netherlands. I was way off with my expectation in the best way possible. Now, bearing that in mind, I want to get into some of the culture shocks that I have experienced as an American being here in Vietnam, in the Hanoi area specifically. Then after I share my culture shocks, my girlfriend here will share her culture shocks from a European perspective coming from the Netherlands. That said, the first culture shock that I experienced being here in Vietnam was the driving. Now, I'm sure that's something you're going to talk about as well, but literally within the first hour after we touched down at the airport, we got in the taxi. I don't even know if it was a taxi. There were just these people waiting by the door, basically just trying to pull us into the car almost. And we got in the car, and seeing the difference in the driving habits between Vietnamese people and Thai people even, let alone Americans and Europeans, it was mind-blowing. You would think that something like driving a car would be a fairly universal experience because cars are cars no matter where you go. Roads are roads no matter where you go. No, that is most certainly not the case. So look, before I even get into this, I just want to put this disclaimer out there. I'm not trying to put down anyone's culture or anything like that. I'm just stating my observations as I have experienced them. So we get in this taxi with this guy, and the first thing I notice is that he doesn't really seem to use his turn signals. So I'm like, huh, that's interesting. I mean, I'm thinking maybe that's just an individual thing, but I'm also thinking, well, as a taxi driver, you would think that he would be a lot more, what's the word? Rigid when it comes to following certain rules. But then as our trip progressed, I came to realize that, again, certain rules and conventions are not necessarily universal, internationally speaking. Let's go ahead and go this way right here. But he wasn't using his turn signal, so you're probably wondering, how was he alerting people of his intentions as he was switching lanes, taking exits, etc., merging onto the highway? He honked his horn. So I'm noticing he's honking a lot. I'm like, man, who's he honking at? And then you probably just heard that honk right there. Other people are honking at us as well, but I'm thinking, well, the driver doesn't seem to be doing anything wrong other than not using his turn signals. After about 30 minutes of being in the car, what I realized was that a lot of people here use the horn in lieu of their turn signals. And it is every bit as chaotic as it sounds, but it works though. It works. I think what really matters is not so much the conventions, it's more that people follow them universally within a specific area. So if somebody were to use Vietnamese driving habits in the Netherlands or in the US, it would not work. All right, honking your horn like that in the US may get you shot depending on where you are. But here, I mean, it's just not that big of an issue. In fact, it's a non-issue. And aside from the horn usage, I noticed that he seemed to have this propensity for kind of driving between lanes. It's like he wouldn't commit to one lane. So you can imagine, I mean, we just got off the plane. I'm already afraid of flying, so I'm still kind of nervous just from that. And this man is driving on 2 lanes on the highway with cars on either side, and other people are doing the same. And then people are kind of merging into our lane while we're still there. And I'm like, man, I'm not gonna lie. Again, we've been here almost 3 months. That's something I have not gotten used to, is just being in the car. And thankfully we're in a very walkable area, as you'll see more and more throughout this video. But on the rare occasion that we do need to get in the car, I have at least one experience every time where my nervous system tells me that we are about to crash. Literally every time we get in the car, at least once. So that's something that I have not gotten used to, but it's not even necessarily just the drivers or the driving habits, it's also the infrastructure here. So the road infrastructure, I'm not gonna lie, there are certain instances where I guess because it's normal here, it's not that big of an issue, but I can see how someone coming from the US or from Europe or even Thailand, because I didn't really see these things in Thailand, they would come here and try to drive and not make it home. Because two things that I can think of off the top of my head, for starters, there's this intersection. In fact, I think it might be every intersection, but there's one in particular that I can think of not too far from where we are right now here in Eco Park, where basically I want you to imagine a four-way intersection with traffic lights. Generally, when people are making a left turn, you'll have the protected green arrow to indicate that you can now make a left turn and you're protected, in that oncoming traffic has the red light. So I remember maybe the first couple of times we passed by that intersection in the car, we would go to make the left turn, and by we I mean the Grab driver, because I am for sure not driving out here. The Grab driver would go to make that left turn and there would be oncoming traffic, and I'm looking up, I'm like, wait, we have the green arrow, why are there still cars coming? And it took me a few times to realize that they give both sides the green arrow at the same time. So basically both sides get the green arrow and the green light. So it seems like there's no such thing as a protected left turn here. So that's something that, again, I'm glad that I haven't really driven here, because I would have just assumed that they weren't going to be coming, because in the US that's just not really a thing. In Europe it's definitely not really a thing, but I guess it works because we haven't seen a single car crash since we've been here. So I don't know, everyone here is just kind of on the same wavelength or whatever. And even walking here, the experience with driving in road infrastructure kind of influences the experience as a pedestrian, because right now we're on this beautiful sidewalk, everything is fine and dandy, and I will say this area that we're in is a lot more orderly than the actual city area that we've been to, but crossing the street here is legitimately one of the most anxiety inducing experiences that there is. And I saw videos about it, I heard people talk about it before we came here, so I kind of tried to mentally prepare myself. Basically what people would say was, look, you just need to go for it. Cars are not going to stop for you, the scooters are not going to stop for you, so you need to just kind of cut in front of people and they're going to go around you. And that makes sense, and in my experience, to be fair, that has been the case. The problem with that is I've noticed that people here, and in Thailand actually, I saw this a lot in Thailand, a lot of people have a propensity for using their phone when they're driving or when they're on the scooters. So I'm like, huh, on the off chance that somebody is doing that when we just so happen to be crossing the road, we're gonna get hit. And look, I'm no scientist, but physics tells me that in a collision between myself and a car, I'm not going to come out victorious. So that's something that produces a lot of stress as well. And again, these are just situations that we're kind of insulated from being in this area. Now, speaking of this area, this is the next thing that blew my mind coming to Vietnam, was the level of wealth. So I don't know if you've noticed thus far, but this area is different, okay? This right here, this looks like something you might see in Miami Beach or something like that. And look, I'm not the most well-traveled person, but I've been through Europe, been through the US, most of the US at this point, visited Thailand for 3 months, Pattaya, didn't explore that much, but through all the areas I've been to, thus far. Let's actually go ahead and cross right here so that you can feel some of the stress that we encounter.
It's not even that busy right now.
Yeah. See, this is one of those situations where you kind of just have to go for it. So, just gonna start walking. And we made it. But no, this area right here is one of the most upscale areas I've ever seen or been to in my whole entire life. And that's a big part of the reason why I say Vietnam has shocked me, maybe more than any other place I've been to, is because, of course, when you think about this part of the world, and especially the cost of living associated with it, generally, as a Westerner, you'll have preconceived notions of it being a developing country, and maybe the infrastructure might be a step behind, so on and so forth. And outside of this area, and other little pockets similar to this area, that is the case. But this area right here, Eco Park, and I think there's another area called Ocean Park, which is very similar. We haven't visited there, but I know of it at least. It's built by the same developers, I'm pretty sure. This area is honestly more upscale than almost anything I've seen in the Western world, personally. And look, I've been to Beverly Hills, Rodeo, many times. I've been through Manhattan, New York. There are upscale areas in Dallas, where I'm from. Highland Park, if you're from Dallas, you know what I'm talking about. Legacy West. These are all upscale areas. I've been to London, I've been to the Netherlands, spent 14 months there. I don't think I've seen an area that was on this level. And this is the second place I've been to that I thought to myself, I kind of just want to stay. The first being Fasten in the Netherlands. But I mean, look at the high-rise buildings right here. You have all of these shops, restaurants, things of that nature. Usually it's a lot more lively than this as well. But a lot of people, I say a lot, there's really just a few really loud voices, were giving me a lot of shit for colonizing Vietnam, whatever the fuck that means. Basically saying that it is unethical. Can you actually hold this while I tie my shoe?
Yeah.
Basically saying that it's unethical to take my Western salary to Vietnam with me because it creates an unfair or unbalanced power dynamic. Now look, I understand the sentiment, but you haven't been to Eco Park. If you're saying stuff like that, you haven't been here. I don't know how much money you think I make making these videos. I'm blessed, but I have time freedom and location freedom more than financial freedom. The people here that I've seen, maybe not everyone, but is that a rat?
Where?
That was a big ass rat that just walked by. Hold on real quick. Hold on, making me eat my words. Still a very upscale area. It's just, yeah, they have rats. But some of the people that I've seen here and the cars I've seen people driving, I mean, look, I don't have Maybach money. I don't have Lamborghini Urus money. I don't have Mercedes-Benz money. I don't even have a car, okay? I have a suitcase and a duffel bag, and that carries all of my possessions. I don't have a luxurious car. I don't have a 3-story home. This high-rise that we're staying in, it's nice, and maybe I'll do an apartment tour at the end of this video or even in a separate video. But these people have more money than I do. Okay, so when we talk about a lack of balance in the power dynamic, or whatever you want to call it, that's just not the case. All right, these people have more money than me. They're sending their kids to international schools, to private schools. All right, I don't even have money to have kids right now. So I mean, it's just a different level. Of course, a lot of people here are older than me and my girlfriend, so as we get older, then maybe we'll catch up. But yeah, that is most certainly not the case. We are not out here exploiting anybody. All right, these people, they have money. Now, I think a big part of this next culture shock that I experienced actually stems from people here having more money. Now, the reason why I say that is because, again, they're sending their kids to international schools. They clearly have the disposable income to expose their children and even themselves to a different side of life, I think, than other people within the country would have access to. You're probably wondering, what's this next culture shock? English proficiency. So not everyone here is fluent in English, even the people within this area, but something I've picked up on is that especially teenagers and children here seem to be a lot better at English than people in Thailand, which really shocked me because the area that we're in, we're starting to see more and more Westerners. I think maybe this is kind of the ideal season for travel. I don't really know the travel patterns of this area, but this isn't a really touristy area. Whereas in Thailand, we were in Pattaya, okay? You wanna talk about touristy, that's as touristy as it gets. We saw Westerners every day. And yet the locals there were much worse at speaking English than the locals here. And again, I think it's just because people here in this particular area have more disposable income to send their kids to English school or to international school, or even to take trips abroad. So the level of exposure that they have to the English language is just much greater. So it naturally follows that they would be proficient at English, or at the very least conversational. I've been at the gym and I've had teenagers start conversations with me about fitness and things like that. And I mean, that was a pleasant surprise, because in Spain, a country that I think most people would assume is economically ahead of Vietnam, right? I think that's a fair assumption to make. I didn't really see anybody that was proficient in English. I'm not saying that nobody there is proficient at English. Of course, there are people who can speak English there fluently, but just compared to Vietnam, I feel like the people here in this area are better at English. So that's something that really surprised me, especially coming here to the Hanoi area. Again, it's a lot less touristy, but I digress. You heard me mention that there were teenagers starting conversations with me at the gym, things of that nature. If you don't know anything about me, know this. I am very big into fitness. I'm very big into lifting weights. Can you actually hold the camera again? My shoelaces keep me inside, but I'm very big into lifting weights. I'm in the gym 5 days a week and I love it. What I've noticed here is that gym culture is not particularly big, but sporting culture is. And what I mean by that is, it seems like a lot of people here are into just different types of sports. Everything from football, talking about association football. In fact, I actually had somebody at the gym ask me if I wanted to play for a local football team. I guess he saw me lifting weights and he just assumed, oh, this guy must be athletic and good at football. I told him, no, I am not the person you want for that task. But football, you see a lot of kids playing that. Badminton, that's another big one. Pickleball, that's another very big one. And volleyball, those are kind of the main ones that I've noticed. But it seems like people here of all ages are really active, and it's more intentional. In the Netherlands, for example, people are more active in their day-to-day lives because they're riding their bikes everywhere, they're walking places. So gym culture wasn't as big there, but it was more a function of people just getting exercise through the flow of their day. Whereas here, it feels more intentional. People are going out of their way to engage in these hobbies, and I think it also kind of plays into the community aspect that you see in Vietnam. This is just a little sidebar culture shock, but I noticed that it's very uncommon to see people eating at a restaurant by themselves, for example. It's much more common to see groups of 10 or 15 people at a restaurant at a time, which is cool. I mean, it's nice to see that people have that sense of community, because I feel like in the US, especially when you get into some of the more affluent areas, people kind of lose that. And in the Netherlands, I think maybe people are still in tune with that side, but I want to say Vietnam is maybe on a different level in that regard. Now, the next thing that has shocked me, not just about Vietnam, but about Hanoi specifically, is the weather. So coming to Southeast Asia, I think it's fair to assume that most people think Southeast Asia is just warm. And come to think of it, I don't even know if Hanoi specifically would be considered Southeast Asia, now that I think about it. But let me know in the comments if you know more about that. But basically, here in Hanoi, I just assumed it would be like Thailand, where it stays warm year-round, maybe 30, 35 degrees. But no, that is most certainly not the case. It cools down, it gets down to 20 degrees, maybe 18 degrees Celsius. All right, that's the high 50s to mid 60s Fahrenheit, especially at night. It's really, really nice. The weather here is super pleasant, I would say. And that's been a welcome shock. I've been able to bring out the turtleneck a few times. So if I'm able to bring out the turtleneck, hey, if I'm able to bring out the turtleneck, then to the people playing soccer, see, that's what I'm talking about. People here, they're more intentional, they're playing sports. This is a more lively area. I'm not trying to record people's kids and stuff, but you can just see in the background, you can hear it's just a lot more lively. And again, the weather plays a big role in that, I think. Today, for example, it's, I think, 25 degrees Celsius, right? Which is around 78 degrees Fahrenheit. It's beautiful. I'm wearing shorts. It's gorgeous, gorgeous weather. It's not hot. Camera's not overheating. I'm not sweating. Honestly, look, my overall verdict of this particular area, and again, I'm speaking more from the standpoint of this particular area, because I haven't been to Da Nang. I haven't been to, it's called Saigon, I think, or Saigon, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Haven't been to Ho Chi Minh. Haven't really been anywhere outside of the Hanoi area. But again, this is one of the 2 areas I've been to worldwide that I did not want to leave. And that is saying something, because my girlfriend will tell you that I am hardwired to be on the go. I get restless. I don't like being in the same place for too long. But we're leaving for Malaysia here in the next week or so, and I'm actually a little bit sad about it. But speaking of my girlfriend, I want to go ahead and give her the opportunity to share some of her culture shocks from a European perspective, because of course, growing up in the Netherlands, she has a different set of cultural values or expectations than I do, having grown up in the US. So the stage is yours.
Well, do I hold it?
Yeah, you can hold it.
I don't know if I'm pointing it right.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So, yeah, a lot of the things you already touched on as well.
Yeah.
So like the driving was a huge culture shock for me as well, because it seems chaotic to me. I guess because everything in the Netherlands, or at least the infrastructure, is pretty organized. And so sometimes it feels like, kind of like I'm in a game, like GTA or something, and you kind of have to just go around them, or they go around you when you're walking, which is actually pretty remarkable that we haven't seen an accident. Literally. And I'm like, that's pretty amazing how they just seem to do that, even though there don't seem to be as many like rules or something, or maybe we just don't know of them, I don't know. But yeah, the honking as well. And just one thing I want to say is like there seems to be more tolerance for noise in general than, let's say, in the Netherlands, because also like aside of the honking, you have people like playing music in the gym on their speaker.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And like just on their phone when you're in the elevator or something. It'll be, yeah, pretty loud, but it's like, I guess they're just more used to hearing more noise here, where in the Netherlands that might be considered more like rude or something if you do that, but here that doesn't seem to be an issue. And another big culture shock for me was going grocery shopping, and that you have your groceries in your, what do you call it in English, in your cart?
Yeah, the basket.
And you basically put them on the counter for the cashier to unpack and scan, and then they bag your groceries for you. Usually, because what we do is we bring our own bags, so then usually we just pack the groceries, because otherwise they just give you plastic bags and then they'll pack it for you. But that was a big culture shock for me, because I know in the US they also do that if you don't use the self-scan, and in the Netherlands that's not a thing. And that's actually something that I'd be really stressed about when I'm in the Netherlands and I don't use the self-scan thing. That's why I like using that so much, because otherwise I'm so stressed and like, oh my god, I'm so slow with packing these groceries, and then I need to pay, and I'm like, oh my god, the next person is already here. And yeah, but here they pack it for you, but then they also use these yeah, what do you even call them?
The tape thing?
Yeah, they have these tape thingies that will say, I guess in Vietnamese, it'll say
Sold.
sold as well, but in English it also says sold. And so they pack it on, sometimes they pack it on every thing that you buy, and sometimes they just put it on the back, or they do both. But that was a huge thing to me. I was like, huh, that's interesting. I had never seen that anywhere else before.
Not even Thailand.
No, that they, yeah, put it on everything, I guess, so that people just know that, yeah, you already bought it. But
And
yeah,
now that you point that out, they don't really have self-scanners here at all, huh?
I haven't seen them.
Yeah, they didn't have them in Thailand either.
No.
Just must not be a thing in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, I guess not. So that was a big thing as well. Yeah, and also what you mentioned, the thing about working out. Here it seems to be more focused on cardio, especially, and maybe as an activity to do with other people, because it's really cute actually. I've seen a lot of dance classes with these older women, and they seem to find such joy in that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really admirable thing that I didn't really see a whole lot in the Netherlands. I mean, we have like classes at Basic Fit, but it's, I don't know, it's different here. Like, it seems like they organize it themselves.
Yeah. And just for reference, Basic Fit is the generic gym chain in the Netherlands. But I will say in the Netherlands though, you do have groups of old people riding their bikes together on the weekends.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't see that in the US at all.
Yeah, and there will be, I guess they go walking together. But I haven't really seen them do like dancing together or anything.
Yeah.
And I think maybe dancing is might be a bigger part of the culture here. Because I saw them also doing this dance with these, I don't know what you call them, these hats. And they kind of swing them around or something. So I don't know if that's, more part of the culture here, but that's really cute. And then sometimes you see them doing it in the mall area too, not even just at the gym. So it's like they're really just organizing it themselves, and that goes into the community feel that I do agree people seem to have more here
Than the Netherlands or than the US?
than the US and the Netherlands. Even though in the Netherlands I feel like people have it more than in the US.
Yeah.
But then here even more than in the Netherlands, I'd say. And Let me see.
And while she's figuring out the next culture shock that she had, I just realized I forgot to say what that second thing was in terms of driving and road infrastructure. Also near this area, there's this one highway that we have to take pretty much anytime we go into excuse me, Hanoi proper, the actual city, because we're in a suburb outside of Hanoi. And on that highway, it's basically one lane going in each direction, which, okay, that's fairly normal. You'd see that in a lot of areas in the US and the Netherlands. The difference with this one is that the on-ramps and the off-ramps are the same. So basically, the on-ramp and the off-ramp are on one side, and they use them simultaneously, coming in both directions, which maybe I'm not describing it in a way that fully helps you imagine how chaotic it is, but you have people coming across traffic on the highway to get to that other lane. And that blew my mind. I don't know if it's by design or if people just decided to use it that way, because there aren't really any other options to exit the highway or to enter the highway. It's just all on that one side. So again, mind-blowing.
Yeah, and then what goes into that I haven't mentioned yet is people biking on those big roads. And yeah, biking is a big thing in the Netherlands. I think if you know anything about the Netherlands, is that we bike a lot. But that's crazy to me. Like, that's something that, yeah, not here. Like here, I think it's very normal to bike, but on like, what would you call them? Not even highways, but
just big
roads
roads with 5 lanes.
A lot of traffic. I wish we had a clip of it. I don't know if we do.
Well, I'll just show some B-roll of the road itself and let their imagination fill in the gaps.
I'm like, you're brave for doing
Very
that.
brave.
I'm like, I would not be comfortable just biking on that road. But that does go to show that some people do bike here, and I don't know if that really was people were doing that in Thailand.
No, I don't
right?
think I ever saw a bike in Thailand.
Yeah, so that seems to be more a thing of here. But that was crazy to me. And then I think the last thing I want to mention is people don't really seem to say like good morning or hi to each other here. Like, for example, in the elevator in the Netherlands, if you come into the elevator, you say like good morning or something, depending on what day or what time of the day it is, or you just do or not, and then that's kind of your way of greeting each other. Or when you're just taking a walk, of course not in the city center, you're not gonna say good morning to everyone, but more in your neighborhood, people say like good morning or hi. Most people. But here people don't really seem to say anything, so yeah, I guess that's just not really a thing. And I think in the US, how is that in the US?
Yeah, people are definitely a lot more outgoing in the US. Elevator talk is a whole trope that people follow, and I'm not gonna lie, that's part of the reason why I love it here so much. We're introverts. We're both introverts, so
I don't mind it. It's just something that stood out to me.
Yeah.
But then I wonder why that is, because it does seem that people have this community feel, but I guess they don't derive it from those small interactions or the maybe small talk. Maybe they find it more in doing things together.
Yeah,
That's
I think
just an assumption.
maybe what it also is that family culture here is a lot stronger.
Yeah.
So it's more like if you're part of the family unit, then the connection is a lot stronger than it might be in the US. But the connection between strangers is almost non-existent here.
And maybe also with friends.
Yeah,
that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's a very astute observation, but we have been staying in not this building, but there's another building exactly like this one right next to it. And actually, no, it is this one, H2. H2, we're staying in this building right here. I think, we're somewhere on this side over here on the 19th floor. So as promised, I want to give you a quick apartment tour of our Airbnb here in Vietnam. Now, this place costs something like $382 a month on average for us through Airbnb. And if I'm not mistaken, generally, the price you pay for an Airbnb is going to be more than the price you would pay if you rented it long term. So I think you can reasonably assume that this place is probably something like $250 a month. If you know more about the profit margin on Airbnbs, then feel free to comment below, but I assume this place, if you were to just rent it outright, would probably be something like $250 a month, which is an insane deal when you consider that, again, these people are not making the average Vietnamese person's salary. These people are driving Maybachs and Lamborghini Uruses and Rolls-Royce Ghosts, cars that cost upwards of $200,000, $300,000, probably even more with import taxes here. I mean, these people have it very, very good. Let me just put it like that. And for the past 3 months, we have had it very, very good as well, as you can see. Now, I mentioned quick apartment tour because the apartment is not really that big, so there's not that much to see. But I'm gonna save the best for last, my personal favorite part of the apartment. Now, you can see we start off in the kitchen. Okay, we have electric stoves, which amazing. They are very, very functional, do everything we need them to do. Very, very nice. And I like the general aesthetic of this kitchen. I know I'm more of a fan of it than she is. I think maybe the cabinets could be a different color, but I like black. I like dark colors. You have a big sink right there. It's a little dirty, so I'm not really gonna show all of that, but it's a nice big sink. And plenty of cabinet space. This place came with all of the bowls and plates and Tupperware that we needed, etc. Nice front door, good quality. And you have the little keypad thing where you have to enter the code to come in. That's some high-tech stuff as far as I'm concerned. But you come to the left, you have the bathroom right here. So the interesting thing with the bathroom, I've never seen this anywhere else before, but for the first few days, we thought that we didn't have hot water. Yeah. So I was like, man, did these people scam us or something? But no, apparently you have to flip this right here to turn on the water heater, which actually I think is a really nice feature for efficiency's sake. And look, Vietnam is not the most environmentally friendly country, I would say. Yeah. But this right here, this is something that I can see European countries integrating if they haven't already. But you see, you have the bathroom right here, nothing special, nothing fancy, just a bathroom. You have the bidet or the spray thing. Once you've experienced that, you'll never want to go back to toilet paper ever again. We have not bought toilet paper since we got here. But nice mirror. The lighting could be a little bit better. You can see I have somewhat of a fade. I managed to cut my hair in this crazy lighting, so hey, give me some props for that. But nice big shower. The shower is actually separate. I think in Thailand we kind of just had a half separate shower, so the whole floor would get wet every time we showered. But here we have the luxury of a closed shower. Very, very nice. So you can see we have a nice size fridge as well. This is a lot bigger than what we had in Thailand. And did we even have a freezer in Thailand?
Only a freezer section in the fridge. So
yeah, it was very small. It was probably about the size of this, or maybe even this. It was very small, but you can see we're eating healthy. We have a nice size freezer as well. That's been very nice. We have the living room. This is where the magic happens right here. You can see we have the filming setup. We have the mic over there. We have a TV. We have not used it even once. I think we actually unplugged it the first day we got here. But one thing that I love about Vietnam and Thailand, I don't know if this will be the case in Malaysia, but the plugs can actually accommodate the American style chargers and the European style chargers. So you can see they have the different options there. So that's been really convenient, but I think we might need to get adapters for Malaysia. I'm not sure yet. But we have a couch. I mean, it's a couch, it's functional, have some nice art up there. So we do have, I guess this would be considered central AC. Not really sure the semantics of that, but basically we have an AC system that flows through the whole apartment. We don't really use it anymore though, because basically for the first I think 3 weeks that we were here, we kept the AC on about 22 degrees Celsius. And what ended up happening was the unit above us had water pooling on their floor, whatever that means, because I guess their unit was so much warmer than ours. So ever since then, we've kept it in dry mode and or used the fan or just kept the door open, which again, like I was saying in the culture shocks video, the weather here is very nice, so it's not really that big of an issue. But you can see we have our own washer and dryer. That has come in handy for sure. In Thailand, we did have a laundromat next door, but I mean, that was probably $5 to $10 per use, and we were using it once a week. With this, it's all included. So I mean, that's been super convenient for us, and just in terms of not having to haul all those clothes to a laundromat, that's been very nice. But we tend to leave this door open pretty much all day just to let the outside air flow through. This right here is our closet area. I know it looks pretty small, but it is deceptively large. I've already taken all of my clothes out. They're in the suitcase because, again, we're leaving, unfortunately. But it's been plenty enough space for us. So, I mean, that's been nice. I guess here, it's kind of like in Europe where you don't really have the built-in closets.
Yeah.
You just get the separate standalone closets. But this right here, let me show you something real quick, okay? So basically, you have this sliding glass door and you have that curtain in there, so you can separate the two spaces. You can turn it into an actual 1-bedroom apartment. Or what we typically do is you can keep this sliding glass door open and basically make it more of a studio apartment. So that's really nice. We're both introverts and we like having some privacy every now and then. So sometimes we'll just be in the separate rooms and have the door closed or whatever. So it's just nice to have that. But speaking of the bedroom, this is the bedroom. It's not particularly large, but I want to say it's bigger than the one we had in Thailand, right?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. So you have a nice little desk right here. A lot of work gets done at this desk. Have another art piece. You have the bed. I like this bed. I think maybe you're not as high on it, right?
No, it's pretty good. But the one in Thailand, I feel like was maybe even better.
Yeah, I like stiff beds
But
though.
it's a preference.
Yeah, I like stiff beds. This is more of a stiff bed. So this is more my cup of tea, but personal preference to her point. We also have this extra drawer space for more clothes, and there are towels. All the essentials came with this place. Now, this right here is my favorite part of this apartment, okay? This, in my opinion, and maybe this isn't the best day to really show this, but this is the reality of being in Vietnam as well. I'll touch on that in a second, but the view that we have in this here apartment is phenomenal. And I did not know it would be like this. So this gives you a nice vantage point of the area. You can see it's well planned out. You have all of these high rises basically on the edge of the neighborhood. And then sort of right next to them, you have the mid-rise developments. I don't know if there's anybody living in those mid-rise homes just yet, but it's more of the European style where you'll have the shops on the bottom floor, and then above that you'll have apartments or condos or whatever they are. And then in the interior of the neighborhood, you have homes, and they're separated by water. I don't know if you can see it from here, but people have their own docks where they can put their boats. So again, we are not exploiting anything. These people have way more money than us. And I don't even think you can buy property as a foreigner in Vietnam. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but yeah, you can see the pollution is kind of crazy. For the first maybe week or so, we kind of thought that it was just foggy, and then we realized that's not fog. That's pollution. So that's one of the reasons why I think maybe it's not viable to be here long term, is because that can't be good for your lungs. When we go into the actual city center area of Hanoi, or just more of the actual core, the closer you get to Hanoi, the more you see people wearing masks, especially when they're riding the scooters. And that is for a reason. It's because people know that that's probably going to give you lung cancer. In fact, we should probably go ahead and close this door, now that I think about it. But, I mean, outside of the pollution, this place has been a dream. I mean, we have a gym, there are, and I shit you not, at least 5 or 10 grocery stores within walking distance. And I'm talking about within a 15-minute walk. Literally 1 or 2 just downstairs on the first floor of this building. Yeah. So everything you could possibly need. And for the locals, there are schools within walking distance. I noticed they also have a bus shuttle system where I guess if the schools are a little bit further, you can have your kids shuttled. I mean, this is just a great area, and we spend a lot of time in the actual apartment, so it's essential that we have some of the creature comforts that we've come to expect from having grown up in the Western world. But honestly, this is ahead of the Western world, I think. I don't know about you, but I don't know if I've ever seen a digital keypad like that to get into the apartment in the Western world. I'm sure it exists, I just haven't seen it before. And then materially, you can hear that right there. Unlike in the US, you can't just punch a hole through the wall, you're gonna break your hand. So the walls are solid, the materials are good. And something else actually that I forgot to mention, that we both forgot to mention actually in the Culture Shocks video, is this right here.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, that was a huge culture shock.
This right here, this is something I've never seen anywhere else. And I don't know if this is Vietnam specific or if it's just specific to this building or what. But basically, that is a speaker right there. And I want to say after about a week of us being here, maybe in the first week or so, I think Nadia was actually here alone and I was at the gym, but they have speakers in the gym as well. And out of nowhere, we hear this kind of crackling sound. You know, when someone is kind of turning on a microphone or something like that. And then we just hear this woman's voice speaking. And it sounds like it's coming from heaven or something. I'm like, where the fuck is that voice coming from? And to this day, we don't know what the woman was actually saying. I noticed they don't really do the announcements a whole lot anymore over the past month or so. But that first month and a half that we were here, I feel like they would announce something just about every other day almost. And still don't know what they were saying. I asked the host about it and she said it could be something about maybe a fire drill or something like that. But one thing we did find out was that in the event of an emergency, they do have an English dubbing that will tell you basically to get the hell out of the building. So that did happen one time where the alarm went off, we heard the fire alarms and everything, and we had to haul ass down these 19 flights of stairs. That was not a very fun way to start the day, but it got us up. It woke our asses up for sure.